Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art, located in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, July 26, 2019, and this is our weekly video. As many of you know, you come back every week. It's very nice to have you. And we're going to take a look at last week's eBay sale, see what went on. There were some good prices. And some things that went on over that are coming up over at Catawiki and a few other things. One of the things I wanted to do was that a couple of weeks ago, we pointed out some copies and reproductions that were on eBay that were getting a lot of attention. And I got a lot of email from people saying that, gee, they liked that. It was fun to take a look. So we're going to do it again with a half a dozen or so items that are on there right now that close in the next few days that seem to be getting bids and interest from what we can see on the watch counts and all that business. So we're going to take a quick look at some of those just to get started, and then we'll go into the regular stuff. Okay, this is on there right now. This is a copy of a Yuan jar. This seller has a couple of purportedly Yuan Dynasty jars up. Those of you who've been around for a while know that these are all over the market. These fish jars are extremely rare. They do not just turn up, in antique shops and at flea markets. This is a particularly well-known type. Right now, it's got 4 days to go. It's up to $62. And if you got it on your watch list, take it off your watch list. This is a seller over in the UK that has this, and it is a blatant fake. And one of the things that you can do, you flip these things over and you look at the bottom. Okay, this even has somebody put a Christie's label on here, property of a lady. That's a common term they use when they don't want to identify a collector. I doubt this ever went through Christie's, unless it was in a box lot in a basement sale somewhere. And when you see these bottoms done like this with these splashes of glaze sprinkled over it, and on the interior like that, be very leery. But I'll just say it. You're not, the likelihood of coming across one of these out there, especially, just turning up on eBay, if this was authentic, the guy would have already been offered, $500,000, $1 million for it, and it would be gone. All right, because there are people who look on here who know, and it is still here, and it's not getting any traction, so not a lot of traction, but it is getting bids, and if you've spotted it, unspot it, get rid of it. And this is another piece from the same seller. Oh, lightning strikes twice. And here's a picture of the bottom. And when you see these bases with this fake rust all over it that's been painted on, and this fake discoloration and so forth, be very leery. Run for your life, in other words. Okay, here's another view of it. The brushwork is terrible. There's so much wrong with this vase. I can't go through it all, but avoid it like the plague. Okay, it's got a couple of bids. Closes on Tuesday. Again, this is a type that does not turn up on eBay. I'll just put it that way. Okay, it doesn't. These don't turn up anywhere other than at major auction houses and with major dealers. So keep your powder dry, all right? This is on there right now. This is a yen vase with Famille rose. This is a modern vase. Here's a picture of the bottom of it. That's not a foot rim you want to see. You can see where they've dirtied it up and tried to give it some age and that rather odd bluish tinge. And then when you look at the decoration, you notice how crisp and hard it looks. It doesn't have any, there's no elegance to the enamels. They're just sort of painted on. Here it is. The bird is stiff looking. There's very little shading in the pigments and so forth. It's all outlined the way it should be done, but it is a copy. This is a brand new vase, and it is up to $22. It's got 9 bids, but it doesn't close until Tuesday. And the seller is Mr. G, and Mr. G once in a while sells real stuff, but he often sells things that are dubious. Okay, and then on to this Zhao piece. Somebody actually made an inquiry about this, and I'll tell you what I told them. It's a fake. This is a copy of an early Zhao Ware vase. It's sort of a pastiche of designs. The foot on it, if you look at it, you say, oh, it looks old and dirty. Yeah, well, they make them to look old and dirty. But with the crackle glaze and this decoration, it's clearly not old. And if you have that on your watch list, stay away from it. It's gotten 20 bids, which is amazing to me. And this is brand new. Now, the seller's not selling it as an antique, in fairness to this guy. He's calling it vintage, and that's what it is. It's vintage. Vintage means less than 40 or 50 years old. And he's being honest about it, but people get onto things like this, they see it, and they talk themselves into it. And if you're looking at this vase, don't talk yourself into it unless you want to buy a new vase. All right, and then this is a tea dust glaze Mei Ping vase. It's got a Zeisser Museum label on it. Here's a picture of the foot rim. It's supposed to be Yongchen Marken period. It is not Yongchen Marken period. It's a 20th century vase period. It's got just one bid, and it's got a day or so to go, so maybe not many people are getting hooked by this one. But just in case you're holding it on your list, take it off. It is new. This is not an antique, okay? All right, now this is something interesting. This is a seller named Qing Period, and it's not the Qing Period in the Netherlands who sells great things. This is somebody who has a fairly new account, and their username is Qing.period instead of Qing-period. All right, differentiate them. The guy, the original Qing Period on eBay is a great dealer. He handles good things. This is not he. Okay, this is not him. This is a guy out in, where is he? Danville, California. He's got this up, Daosai Cup, 4 bids, 7 days to go. It is new. This is a brand new piece. It's very pretty. It's very well done, but it's new. And he has a couple of other things on here. Here's the mark. And as you can see, if those of you know a bit about these, you know that foot rim is all wrong. The color of the cobalt is all wrong. The interior decoration, it's, while prettily done, is not done with the fluidity and elegance of the originals and so forth, okay? And he has another piece up as well. It's not this one. This is another copy that's up right now. It's being listed as being over 100 years old. It's not. This is a pretty new thing. And if you take a good look at the decoration, there's a bat on here that looks like he sort of got shot onto it with a squirt gun. Terrible drawing, clumsy Shao characters here, very irregular looking. But from a distance, it looks like an old vase. You know, if you look at it this way, oh, it looks pretty. It's not. It's not an old vase. That foot is a modern foot that's been, again, dirtied up and smoothed out, very glossy underneath, and so forth. So this is you want to take this off your watch list. This thing has gotten 17 bids, but it's only up to $32. So maybe it isn't fooling many people. All right, and then this is, oh no, this sold last week. This is fine. All right, and that was it. Okay, I think there was one other thing that this guy had up that was fairly, yeah, this thing, Daoguan period jar. It has just 2 bids. This is a pretty modern thing. Okay. So you want to avoid that, and that's this Qing period seller in California. Maybe he gets real things once in a while, but this time around he didn't, and he's a little evasive in his description. So be careful of those guys, okay? And now let's move over onto the newsletter for the week. See how things did that we put on here, that we pick out each week. There were some good things. Some very nice robes and some other stuff, and we're going to slide into it, of course, with this, a very nice piece of silver, hammered work. This was done by a pretty well-known Shanghai silversmith who worked in the latter part of the 19th century. It ended up bringing $277. His name was Luan Wo, and this was a nice little cup with the flowers on it, and well done, well finished. And this is small. This was only a few inches tall, but a lovely little piece of Chinese silver, and it was marked. All right, which is important, of course. And then on to this, the rose medallion bowl. There were a couple of rose medallion bowls up this week. This was a nice one. It was particularly well drawn. It has a Greek key, gilt Greek key border around the framing of the figures, and the bowl was in quite nice condition. It did pretty well. It brought $850, had 68 bids, even though it did have a hairline on the base, which is pretty common with these big bowls. But that was a nice thing. All right, and then over here to the bronze. This was the bronze that was Avion's Antiques had up. A nice old one, probably late Ming, early Qing, something like that. He had some good pictures in here, lots of old polished gunk stuck on it. Good looking foot on that. Good legitimate looking wear to it. The interior was properly grunged out. and so forth. It's somebody, but again, this is one of those bronzes that, bronzes that came to the West were often cleaned and polished, especially back in the early part of the 20th century. And they shouldn't have done it, but less and less buyers seem to care whether or not they were polished in the past or not, as long as the form is good. And this was a nice bronze, and it did pretty well. It brought a $3,070. Not bad at all, but it was a nice shape, and I like the handles on it. It was pretty thing. And then over here, this was a circa 1900, 1910 jar that Ancient Arts had up. Very prettily done. Nice looking pot. I think it had a brief hairline somewhere around the mouth, but overall it was a good looking pot. And it was around, 13 inches or something? 13.8 inches. There it is. And I think it went for a reasonable price. I think this was, if somebody wanted a really pretty Famille jar with the basket, flower basket arrangement, this flower basket deal, you see, really got started on a lot of porcelain during the, you see it occasionally in Kangxi pieces, but mostly in Qianlong pieces. And they did it fairly often. And this did fine. It brought $590, a perfectly nice pot, good thing, and of nice size and nice quality. But it was very late Qing dynasty. All right, and then on to here. These were really something. These were a beautiful pair of ruby ground Qianlong or Yongchen period dishes with cockerels on it. This is quite a rare pattern. You see them at Christie's, you see them at the big auction houses. These were coming from a seller in France who gets some pretty good things. And these were nice, and they were in beautiful condition. If you looked at them carefully, you'll notice that the enamels were all in excellent shape. Good, bright, clear enamels, especially on the rooster. There were nice, deep red enamels on the head, but beautiful shading of the pinks. The pinks were beautifully shaded in, and they have it as Qianlong. I don't think it is. I think it's Yongchen. It sold for These sold for $7,101, but they were really lovely. If they're Qianlong, they're very early Qianlong. There's not much of a demarcation line between late Yongchen and early Qianlong, but these were really pretty and worth it. Okay, and then on to this. Let's see if we can get the page to load. There it is. Was this Famille grisaille decorated? Sometimes they call these Empress Dowager porcelains or Xixi porcelains, because it was a pattern that she was. We've talked about them before. There were some bowls on a few weeks ago that she was involved with the design of. She favored this design. They come typically in yellow or turquoise, and has the well-known seal on one side. And here's a picture of the bottom with that mark. These are all very standard on these. And this was a nice one. It had a minor enamel nick here and here, things like that. But in the end, it did fine. It brought $2,075. And these were typically made in pairs. So if you have a pair of these, because pairs don't turn up all that often, they will bring, if you get a pair, expect to get probably close to $5,000, $6,000 even for them. Because pairs are much harder to come by. And they look great with bulbs in them. I know somebody had these in his house, and he put narcissus bulbs. He planted in them every spring. It was really good. And they're good with bonsai trees. All right, and on to this. Is the silver filigree enamel export fan. This was a very nice one, beautifully done, good quality. It looked to be in excellent shape. And you see this type of work. We've had them a few weeks ago where the upper section around the top of the fan was a paper ground with figural landscapes and Famille rose coloring. And this one is all silver. It was quite interesting. It was a nice piece. And in the end, it did just fine. It brought $1,825, which is about right for that. This is a dealer over in Spain who specializes in fans. And we feature their stuff whenever it comes up because they have people bring them really nice fans to sell. All right, and then on to this. Our friend Will Martindale over in England had this up, was the Biscuit and Turquoise glazed seated Buddha. I liked this a lot. I thought his face was wonderful, in good condition. And this was a nice size. This is a good size piece of porcelain. Here's a picture of the bottom of it, very typical for these late 19th century pieces. Did have a brief line here, but didn't seem to bother anybody, and had a little line over here in them. And often those lines are from castings. It's not from damage. These things form when the pieces cool off. All right, and I love the detail of the toes. I don't think he intended to show that, but it really gave you an idea of how well this thing was done. And in the end, it brought $3,411, which is right up there. But this was a nice thing, and we don't see them very often. You don't see them very often anywhere. And if you're a Buddha collector, this was a fun thing to own. All right, and then on to this was the Roundel robe. There were a couple of good Chinese robes up this week. This brought about what we anticipated last week. It went for a little over $4,000. It would have brought a lot more, but it did have some wear and issues on the top of the sleeve here. And I suspect that's from maybe either the way it was stored or something, because the wear seems to run right along that ridge. It may have been hanging on a rod for too long or improperly hung, because there's some issues here with condition. And nonetheless, it ended up bringing $4,150. All right, and then we get over to this one. This was a dragon robe. I think this was from the same seller. And a nice 19th century dragon robe. The colors are slightly muted, the pinks and so forth. I thought they were quite pretty, and it had the full sleeves on it. And it ended up doing, it is the same seller. It ended up bringing $4,750. All right. And if it didn't have the little condition issues, it probably would have brought $7,000 or $8,000. Figure it that way. All right, and then over here was that big silk fragment that we showed and mentioned last week. I love the way the dragons are done on this, and it has this very nice groundwork with clouds and all that business. It had a few splits and a couple of issues here and there, but this is a nice old early to mid 19th century example. Good drawing with the imagery on here. The dragon really looks like he's sort of running in circles behind the other one, chasing them around, and in the center is the flaming pearl. And it did fine. It brought $1,019. Had it been perfect, this probably would have brought $4,000 or $5,000. But silk restoration is kind of expensive, so that's probably why. But still, a nice big piece of silk with a good dragon on it. And then over to this is a fairly well-known pattern, the Lotus Bowl, 18th century Qinlong. These were mostly made for export. They did them in bowls, they did them in plates, they did them in cups. It's a pretty well-known pattern. The interiors tend to be just done like this. There's a little wear to the inside where they just use a little iron red enameling around the center. Usually not more than that. All right. The foot on it looked good, nice smooth white creamy foot with a little edge discoloration, so forth, from iron oxide. And it ended up selling for $706, which is fine. That was a perfectly fair price. And then over to this, the Yixing brush pot. I like this little brush pot a great deal. I thought this was a terrific little thing. Nice inscriptions on it, good-looking script, lots of age, nice old one. And apparently a lot of people liked it. And in the end, this was only a couple inches tall, but $1,826. But nice little scholar's object. If you're a scholar's object buyer, this was a good thing, really was. And again, another scholar's object was this ink box. This is a nice 19th century box. It had very good script and calligraphy on it. A lot of wear, obviously. That isn't fake wear. That's legitimate use wear. The interior of it's pretty stained up. I don't know where it came from, but at any rate, I think this was sort of a good buy. I believe the box to be not really copper. I think it's pak tong, and I think whoever bought it probably knew that. And it brought $438, which I think was a very, very great buy. All right, that was a good buy. I thought it should have brought more than that, but because in the past we've had them and they bring $1,000, $1,500. And I think that was a very nice buy for someone who likes scholars objects, table objects, that kind of thing. And then over here to the Kangxi Marken period dragon dish. This was a very nice dish. We had a couple of inquiries about it over on the on the preview assistant thing. This was nicely done. You have the dragon and the carp pattern, which is a well-known pattern. You see it on bowls, you see it on vases. The Jerry Tang collection has a couple of dragon and carp images, I believe, in their porcelains. And this was a good one. And it ended up doing just fine. It brought $1,404. Had this had just a Chanois mark on it, it probably would have brought around $500 or $600. But having the correct period mark on these pieces in particular has a pretty big impact on the price, usually triple. All right, and then over to here, nice looking pair of Thai Bangkrong ware bowls. You don't see pairs of these very often, so I thought this was sort of a nifty opportunity for somebody who's a pairs collector. And these were good looking. They were 19th century, well done, and they ended up selling for $1,075, which is, I think, a good buy, because typically a single one of these bowls sells for around $500, $600, and somebody got two of them for $1,000. And the old rule of thumb that a pair is generally worth around 3 times the price of a single. I think they got these at a nice price. Very good buy, and they're pretty, and I like them. All right, now let's take a look over here and see what's coming up. Oh, by the way, the eBay Today page, that's the page that gets updated every day, every morning with things. And then often the things that are on here, we do put on the newsletter page to focus on them. There's some good stuff on here this week. Some of these things have just sold. But one of the things that we're going to be showing you is that this seller, his name is Hugh something or other. He's over in the UK or in the Netherlands. He's a collector and once in a while dealer, and he sells a few of his things now and again. He always has nice things. And right now he has this nice transitional porcelain piece. He's got a couple of nice, he specializes in transitional late Ming stuff and early Japanese blue and white. So if you like transitional wares that are good quality, these are all his. And they're already on the eBay Today page. They will be on the newsletter page this weekend by tonight. Nice early pieces, and also some very good, like these early Japanese Arita pieces, late 17th century examples, really good quality. The guy has a fabulous eye, and if you're a Japanese Arita collector, you want to check these out. There's some good pieces. I love the one with the geese here, and the where's the one up here? Oh, this one with the goose, and I like that one with the 2 deer, the recumbent deer. Just really nice. So check those out. And over here on Catawiki, you have a nice spinach and egg kungshi cup with a chimera on the handle. This has gone up quite a bit in the last day or so. And there's a number of things on Catawiki right now and closing tomorrow and the next day, and we will have them on the newsletter. One of the pieces they have that we just came across this morning is this nice, we just noticed it. It was on the newsletter. I didn't even notice it. It's this very nice deep cobalt blue kungshi dish that's up to just $91, and it closes in a day. And this just went up. The boy on the buffalo, 18th century porcelain, good example. And one seller has up several nice Wan Li plates. If you like Wan Li dishes with good quality decoration, there's several of them up here. This is one, and I think the next one is another from this same seller. Very nice item, and you might want to hop over to Catawiki to take a look. And on eBay, this is the big transitional jar. I think this is wonderful. This is a nice transitional jar with the lohans and the bamboo forest. Here's a picture of the bottom. That's the way they should look. All right, like that. That's a nice old bottom. It's a real one, mid-17th century piece. And then you have, let's see, hold on. There's this nice grisaille export teapot with Europeans on it. If you're an export collector, this is a nice little pot. It looked to be in pretty good shape all the way around, and sort of an unusual decoration. It'll be in the newsletter. It's got 6 days to go. It's up to $100. Ought to bring 400 or 500, I suspect. There's also this nice pair of Quanjan ware pillows, circa 1900, 1920, but good quality. These are really well done. Nice decoration, nice enameling, and is a pair. And they're up to $81. They close tomorrow. I don't think they'll bring the world, but they'll do okay, and they're nice. And then there's this Famille June bowl with the gilt band around the middle of it, and then these flower balls floating all over it. They did this pattern on bowls and plates and other things. But this is a nice one, and it's late 19th century, but good glaze, nice looking trim on it, and the gilding is still in good condition. It closes Sunday. It's had 28 bids. It's up to $300, but a nice thing. okay? And that's about it for the week. If you haven't subscribed yet on here, please do subscribe with us over here on YouTube, and come over to Bidamount.com and sign up for the newsletter. Check out what we find each week and to put in the newsletter, and what we put in the eBay Today page. It might help you out. And same with Catawiki. Is what we do. And the other thing was some of you were on the forum this week, and we were having a problem with uploading images. It was putting limits on uploads. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, we migrated the site to its own dedicated server because our hosting company told us we had to, because we have 100. I don't know how we did it, but we have 113,000 files stored on that site, on the Bidamount.com site, and about 60 gigabytes or 70 gigabytes of images in it, or linked to it, or tied to it, and then the videos, and then of course the 400 auction catalogs and all that other stuff. And it added up, and it was impairing the ability of the site to pull up images. We were filling up our files, and we also added a lot of bandwidth to help with traffic, because we were getting a few log jams. All right. And that's it. And thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend. It's supposed to be spectacular here for the next 3 days. Mid-80s dry with a light wind off the water. Who can beat that? And I'll see you all next week. And thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.